Hey there, comic book fans, it's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and as you can see, I'm on the road today. We are headed out to Frederick, Maryland for a little Comic-Con hosted by Show Promotions. These are the same promoters that put on the show down in Annandale, Virginia, that I go to frequently. And this is a show, whether it's here in Frederick or down in Annandale, that is about every month or so, and you get a lot of Northern Virginia dealers, you get Maryland dealers, and you get some dealers coming down from Pennsylvania and Delaware. And this show in particular is a much larger show than Annandale, so I'm looking forward to taking my time today, going through, trying to find some of those keys that I have on my 2023 goals list. And I'm going to try to be a little disciplined and not just buy willy-nilly like sometimes happens. Try to keep to that goals list. And I've got some keys in that I'm looking for in particular, but we'll see what we can find, and I'll go over the books. I'll take some footage from the show, I hope, and we will sit down and we'll go through the books. If I pick up any books at all, we'll go through the books later on today in the video, and hope you enjoyed today's show. Sit back, enjoy, and I will see you in a moment. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed some of the footage from the show, It was a really good show. A lot of the local dealers were here. It was really cool to meet Ryan from Automatic Comics. I had seen him at some of the shows down in Annandale, Virginia, and I wasn't expecting to see him today. And it was really great to get to meet him and talk about comics, and also talk about some of the stuff that goes on YouTube and doing our shows and everything. So that was cool. Definitely a bonus for today. I ended up picking up some books. Didn't really stick to my list all that much, but I did find some really good books, and I will get back home and we'll set up and I will show you the books as soon as I get there. So hold on for just another moment, and for you it'll be a few seconds, for me it'll be a few hours. So I will see you in a moment. Alright guys, so I finally made it back home. I got to sit down, I went through the books and I took some notes and looked up some values for these so I could give you some of that information. And let's just talk about the show a little bit. One of the things I wanted to mention was when I got to meet Ryan from Automatic Comics, I made it sound when I was in the car there that he was set up at the show. He was not. He was just a guest at the show, just like I was. I just happened to be standing there at a dealer and I overheard a conversation, and they were talking about the Baltimore Comic-Con coming up and that he had never been there. And I stayed out of the conversation, but when they started to bring up Charlotte Heroes Con, I chimed in and I said what a great show that was. And I kind of introduced myself at that point. And I said, hey, are you Ryan from Automatic Comics? And he was. And that's when we got to sit there and chat for a while. And again, that was pretty cool. His channel is one of the best channels to watch, especially for Golden Age comics. His information is just unending. It seems like his wealth of knowledge is just fabulous, and you can sometimes catch some of his live shows where he will sit there and watch the auctions, and I'm not sure if he's actually bidding at the same time. I'm pretty sure he is on some of the Golden Age auctions that they have on the Sunday nights on Heritage Auctions, and that's always pretty cool as well. But he gives out so much information. He's a great teacher, and I'm sure he's informed many of us in the community about some of the history of the Golden Age. So definitely check out his channel. Definitely, he's a very nice guy. I had a great time talking to him. But there was actually another YouTuber there at the show that does set up here in the local area. He's one of our local YouTubers. Well, Ryan is too, when I realized he's from Northern Virginia. But Rob from Cool Stuff Collectibles was there. He usually sets up these shows here in Maryland, usually at the Clandestine show and at this Frederick show as well. And I said hi to him for a moment. And that's the only one I saw. I didn't see Longbuck's Love Affair there today, but my understanding was he ended up going over to the Third Eye Comics big tent sale that I somehow missed. I completely forgot about it, but I also had work on Saturday of this particular weekend, so I couldn't have gone anyway. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'm just trying to give a shout out for this community down here in Frederick, Maryland, Northern Virginia. This area, this region, I keep saying that this area is growing. I'd love to see this area grow in sort of the ways that the northern, I guess the northeast corridor that you have. You have all those guys up there, a lot of YouTubers, that I think this area here could grow into something like that. I know that DMV Comic Book Collectors, the Facebook group is trying to grow the area as well, so I'm giving those guys a shout out. So Jason, definitely I'm giving you all guys a plug there. I know they just had a big swap meet here that I missed a week ago because I was out of town. Actually, I was out of town on Sunday, but I was having to work. I know what it was. I was working at Amazon. We were finishing up Prime Week that week, and I ended up missing the swap meet. But anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. Let's get on to the books here. I didn't stick to my list at all. I thought I was. In fact, I was there at the show for about 5 hours, and I got in at 9:30. I paid the extra $5 to get in a half hour early, and I did a lot of walking around, and I was trying to be pretty disciplined, and I went in there with a goal in mind. I was looking for specifically a X-Men 120, the first appearance of Alpha Flight, that black cover. I really was looking for a pristine copy of that, and I wouldn't mind spending a little bit of money on it, but I couldn't find a copy that I liked. I mean, but this is what I'm talking about. I'm trying to stay very, very disciplined. Stick to my Spider-Man 294. I found a couple copies of that, but again, both of them are really nice, but they had a tick, a color-breaking tick that
was going to preclude it from being a 9.8. I had to pass on that. I did find a Fantastic Four 244. It's probably the best one that I've ever found at one of these shows. I think it would have been a candidate for a 9.6. But that book has really dropped in value. And you guys know, if you watched the channel just an episode or two ago, I finally got my 9.8 graded version of that. I ended up buying it straight up with a best offer on eBay. And I not interested in continuing buying that book unless it is really a 9.8 candidate. So couldn't find that. I'm trying to think, what else was I looking for? I was looking for Rawls Spider-Man 39 and 40, the original, the first John Romita Senior on Spider-Man, and I was looking for Rawls on that. I only saw a few of those, but I didn't really get into those because something I was seeing, now this is a trend that I'm starting to see more and more, and it's a little bit of alarming, and we'll see how things go with this, but the ones I was finding, I'm finding that a lot of these books are becoming, it's either one of two things. One is that is getting, they're just holding on to the prices where the books were 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when we were in the comic book boom and the prices were skyrocketing. So I think we see some of that. And that's only natural because how often with as many books as some of these dealers have, how often do they get a chance to reprice these books? So some of those prices could be lingering because of that. But what I'm seeing, and more or less confirmed when I was talking to one dealer, they're pricing their books. Some of them are pricing their books with the knowledge that the buyer is going to get them graded. And we're talking mostly the higher grade books that you know you're going to get a 9.8 on, or a super high grade if it's an older book maybe. And I know what's going through their mind. It makes sense. Why would I sell you this book for $40 knowing that you could turn it into CGC, possibly get that 9.8 and turn it into a $400 book? And they're going, where's mine? Where's my money for that? And as much as I can see that from the dealer's point of view, it's really disturbing. And I'm going to say that I'm going to push back on that. At a certain point, you're going to raise your prices so high that it's going to make more sense for me just to go buy it graded. And then where are you going to stand at that point? You're going to have to lower your prices again because people aren't going to buy the book. They'll just go buy a graded version. You guys can let me know what you think about this. Are you seeing this out in the community like this? When you go to comic book shows, are you seeing the high prices on Rawls that seem exceptionally high? Let me know by leaving me a comment in the comment section below. But that's enough about all of that. Let's get into the books. So like I said, I was there for 5 hours. I just wasn't finding what I want. When I can't find the ones that I really want on the top of my list, I revert back to form, and that is to start looking at John Byrne X-Men. There's other things, but John Byrne X-Men is a really good example of something I will continue to look for, because you guys know I try to find great candidates that can grade out to 9.6 or 9.8. And I'm doing pretty good with getting those into the PC, mostly 9.6s, but I keep looking for different copies. There's a bunch I still don't have graded. I do have Raw, I just haven't got them into CGC at this point. But other than that X-Men 120, I will look at all the other issues as well and see if I can find anything. Some of the ones that I know that I really need, like 131, the first cover appearance of the White Queen Emma Frost. I've got that as a 9.2, and I might have one graded or one raw version, but I don't think it'll meet that 9.6 threshold. So I look for raws for that, for example. And I just wasn't finding anything that really jumped out at me and said, hey, this is something you need to buy. I was finding defects, non-pressable defects on a lot of things that just precluded me from buying those. So at this point, I'm obviously not looking at the wall anymore. I'm diving into some of the boxes, and there were a lot of great books. Don't get me wrong. You saw the footage. There were a lot of great books there, and it's just not that they weren't great books. It's just not the ones I was particularly interested in. And again, some of those dealers are way overpriced. In fact, there's a couple dealers there that I never even approach because their prices on the wall are so astronomical that I'm not even going to talk to you. It's not going to be worth my time. And to be honest, you can tell that people can tell that they're overpriced. I walk around their room, as I said, multiple times, and one dealer in particular, I never saw anybody at his booth. He literally is just sitting there all day. I know he has a lot of supplies, so maybe he sold a lot of that, but I don't know how many comics on the walls that he actually sold. Anyway, that doesn't mean that all the dealers are the same, and there were some great guys there. My buddies are all there that set up at these shows all the time. I've met them at these shows, and even if I didn't buy something from some of my buddies, doesn't mean that I didn't like their books. It just wasn't. They didn't necessarily have some of the things that I was really on the search for on this particular day. But it doesn't mean that I can't find something that wasn't on the list, but is definitely on the Rusty Want list. So let me just start with my buddy there, Jim from Battlefield Comics. Always a great guy to talk to. We have had a great relationship over the last year where we've talked about pressing and cleaning and problems that we have with CGC. And every time I go to a show and I talk with him, he shows me some great books that he just picked up. In fact, he showed me some great Spider-Man books, and I think when in the 90s. I can't remember which issues in particular, but man, they were really smart. I think he's going to, especially in one of those, is going to get a super high grade in those 9.2, 9.4 range, and that's just fantastic. But I ended up, normally he has lower price books, lots of lower price books, and not as many wall books, but he did have wall books this time, and he had a book what's funny was I just picked this up of Whatnot. It was a lower grade copy, but I bought it because it was a childhood favorite. In fact, it was one of my first Marvel comics that I remember having as a kid, and he had a really nice copy of this. Let me show it to you. It is Shayna the She-Devil #4. And this book has no significance really, other than it was a childhood favorite of mine. I never had issues 1, 2, and 3 of this. I had issues 4, possibly 5. But this one here, I always remember this, and you had this, I'm trying to think, who was it? It was, got a John Romita, I believe it's John Romita Sr. did the cover here, but you had Ross Andrew doing the inside, and, I just said, again, oh my God, my wife's going to kill me. The Ross Andrew, Shayna was always just a very beautiful woman in this, and I remember at the time, you see the villain right here in the front. This is Mandrill, and if I recall, I'd have to go back and actually reread all of these, but I think this is part of this multi-issue crossover storyline where you had Shayna, Daredevil, The Thing, all kind of crossing over with this Secret Empire storyline. And you had Mandrill, and I don't remember, I cannot remember the villainess that was with Mandrill. I can picture her, but I cannot remember her name. But it crossed over into Marvel 2-in-1, I think issue #3 with Daredevil in that as well. And then in Daredevil in its own book, I think issues 109, 110, 111. 111 was the first Silver Samurai, and that was part of this storyline, the Secret Empire. And didn't that actually also cross over? And if I've got that wrong, I may have to go back and check. Didn't that also cross over into Captain America? I don't know. Anyway, point being, this was a great book, a childhood favorite, so I picked it up. But this is in really good condition compared to the one that I kind of just bought off of Whatnot a week or so ago just for fun. This is in really nice shape, and one that at least I pulled up the information to get graded, possibly. You will find more 9.6s out there graded than any other book. It most recently sold on eBay for $162 for a 9.6. Did I just say that? 9.6 is most prevalent. $162 on eBay back in April of this year. 9.8s are very rare. I don't think you've got a lot of people grading this book, but a 9.8 did, the only sale that I could find was back in 2021 off its Heritage Auctions. It actually went for over $1,400. And I'm not saying that this is a 9.8 candidate, but I will tell you this. I'm looking up and down this book right here, and there are no color creases. There's no apparent color breaking spine ticks at the moment, and I'm going, that's a really nice copy. So we'll have to consider that. We will get it into the shop, we'll clean and press it, and we'll prepare it, and then we'll do another evaluation on that. But I also picked up one other book from Jimmy, and this book, I'm surprised, isn't more valuable. When I did the research on it, for as big of a key as this is, 9.8, which is the most prevalent of this book, aren't that valuable. And I was actually kind of shocked. Let me just show it to you. It's Green Lantern number 50. And the only reason I've been picking this up, I literally, over the course of the last month, I've picked up issues 48 and 49 because it's all part of this descent of Hal Jordan into becoming Parallax. And of course, this is the first issue where he is Parallax. And it is the death of Kilowog. It is the death of the Guardians of the Universe. But even more importantly, it's the first appearance of Kyle Rayner as Green Lantern. And here's the shocking value. The most recent sales, I got 3 of them here in the month of July, all on eBay. 2 of them were auctions, and I only mention that because they were much lower price. We went for $71 and $81, and the one fixed price that went this month was $109. And I'm going, I'm a little shocked. Maybe it's just because it's a newer book and there's definitely more copies out there. But yeah, I would have expected such a significant book to be much more valuable. I mean, 109 seems like a bargain. I think that would be, if you went out there and you found this for $100 graded like that, I think that would be a nice key to have in your collection. But those are the books I picked up from Jimmy from Battlefield Comics. And again, I bought those just for fun, really. And that's because I wasn't finding the keys off my 2023 goals list, anything that I really wanted to pick up. Again, it was either the conditions weren't good or the prices were too high. It was one of the two things. And it just wasn't fitting inside the path that I wanted. It wasn't fitting. It was fitting outside that path. And I just wasn't feeling it. So again, I started going around the show. This is probably my 3rd to 4th trip around. And now I'm considering other things. Other things that catches my eye, just like that Shane the She-Devil. Well, I stopped at one dealer, and one of the things that I absolutely love, like a lot of us, is Dave Stevens artwork. And there was a lot of Dave Stevens books at this show. I kept seeing a particular Betty Page book that was there. You, of course, saw, in fact, what's funny is I didn't see any Rocketeer books on the wall. Now, I did find them in the bins, but not on the wall. But I found some other things. And the one that caught my eye to begin with was this one right here. It is Seduction of the Innocent, 3D number 1. This book right here came out in October of 1985 from Eclipse Comics. And the reason it caught my eye was in 1986, I was in college, second year in college, as a I guess technically graphic arts, fine arts, commercial art major. One of the things we were learning production, and this, for you guys, I'm a little bit older. I didn't go to college, and we didn't have Macintosh at the time. We didn't have the graphics programs. Now we had the typesetting machines and things like that, but we had to do production by hand and with pen and ink, and to create advertisements, we were pasting down stats of type and art, and it was kind of an art form. It was a lot of hand skill with this, and I was in the middle of a production class. We were learning production techniques, and one of our projects was to create a calendar spread. Basically, do the calendar boxes with the numbers, do the typesetting for the numbers, and then with pen and ink create the borders with each day and everything. And I'll tell you this, that was the moment when I did that with a repeatograph and a circle template and I created the whole month there by hand, and it was perfect. I realized that I've got a great skill for production work like that. And that's translated, and just as a side note, I think that's what's translated over to me to be able to work on the comics clean and press. It takes a certain kind of hand skill, I think, to work on them. And for the top part, the art part of the project where you actually created some art, I did a reproduction of this cover here in pen and ink. For the top portion, I did October as my calendar, that's my birth month. So I had seen this, I'm like, oh my God, that's fantastic. So I had done a recreation of this right here for that, and that's why it caught my eye. This book right here, of course, Dave Stevens' artwork right here. This right here is a book that graded, you will find mostly 9.8s out there. In fact, there's not a lot of them graded, but as a 9.8, it's a $284 book. That literally just was here in July on eBay of this year. 9.6s, I want to give you a value on that to tell you that even if you get a 9.6 on something like that, there's still a little bit of value. $115 back in April of this year on eBay. This book right here is really nice, but there is a little defect right up here, but I think it's a manufacturer error. It's not a tear. I guess it's a slight tear up here, but it's more of a printer error than as of a physical error. So be interesting to see what this is going to grade out to when I finally get this into the press. But that wasn't the only Dave Stevens book he had. He had a whole row of different things, including that one particular Betty Page book. They had another book that they had used an interior from The Rocketeer of Betty Page. I wasn't familiar with that book, but I was familiar with these other two that I picked up. This was Crossfire and Rainbow #4. It was a little mini series. And of course, you've got this great, you've got Crossfire and Rainbow down at the bottom. You got this Elvis at the top. And again, just a classic Dave Stevens cover in really good shape. And so I picked that up. And then I've been picking up these occasionally, these Alien Worlds from Dave Stevens. And I know that he had the guy there that had a graded 9.8 of this one too. And I didn't bother to ask him what the price was, but I did some research on both of these. The Alien Worlds right here, it's only $180 as a graded 9.8. Yeah, that's the most prevalent book you'll find out there, the grade out there for this. 9.6 is only around about $75. So once I get this open, we'll find out if this is really going to be a candidate for grading or not. Regardless, all these books are great, just books to have in the PC. They're all really good books to have raw no matter what. This Crossfire and Rainbow, though, this one, if you can pull a 9.8 on that, I saw the last sale I saw this was $200 back in February of this year. And about an $80 value as a 9.6. There are more 9.6s. Again, this is another book out there that has more 9.6s than 9.8s, but not a tremendous amount of value. But I basically bought all of these as a Dave Stevens fanboy on this. But these are really good books, and that's awesome that I finally got that one. There you go. That one in my collection. I never saw it in person, so this is the first time I've ever seen it live at a show or anything. And then the last book that I ended up buying, and again, I don't just go from one dealer to another and then buy something there and there. I've only ended up buying from 3 dealers today. I'm making laps around the room, and I'm talking to some of the dealers that I know, and it's 5 hours into this, and I'm like, okay, I ended up going back to one of my favorite dealers that I see either at Annandale, but usually at this Frederick show, and that is Jason from The Eclectic Nerd. And they end up having some really good books. I mean, really good books. I've gotten books graded from theirs. I've picked out some great books, and they didn't disappoint this time either. They had a lot of really good books, but again, things aren't cheap, and I was trying to stick to either smaller things like the other ones that I picked up that weren't that expensive, or I was looking for basically home runs on something I could get graded as well. They had a couple of beautiful Wolverine #1s from 1988 that I had two really good copies, and both of them had a small little defect that just kind of made me take the exit ramp on both. And I just, as you know, I just recently got back a 9.8 of that signed by Chris Claremont. And I was looking to basically pick up another copy to take to Baltimore Comic Con because he's going to be there this year as well. And Chris Claremont, that is. And basically do it again. Let's try to get another one because I wouldn't mind keeping one in my PC and selling one. I mean, it's a really good value. But both of them had just a small little defect, so I pulled off of it. But I ended up getting one book. In fact, it was the very first book that I pulled off the wall when I came in there today. And it was this one right here. And you're going to laugh because I literally had that same book in the previous episode. You saw me do the unboxing of this. And in fact, I had that book with me at the show with intentions maybe of trading. I never got around to trading anything. There's nothing today I saw that I wanted to trade for. But I had the book with me. But I picked up another copy of Captain America 111, the classic Jim Steranko cover here. You know the one I'm talking about is that I got it signed. The other copy I had signed down at Heroes Con this year. The last video I just got back was we got a 7.0 on it, and kind of as expected, it did have a really rough edge. If you guys will take a look right there, let me see if I can do it. You can see, you can see the black line that goes up on the spine there by the art. It's where the art will stop. And on the copy, the only raw copy that I had when I went to HeroesCon this year, it was in decent shape. It pressed out nicely. It did get that 7.0, but it did have some damage. But it signed, it actually has a lot of value. But I think you guys could tell if you watched that video. You know I was going to look for another copy and look for another opportunity to get Jim Steranko to sign a better copy. And that's what I found. I ended up taking this book off. They actually had issues 110 and 113 on there too. All right, hang on. My monitor's going to sleep. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm rambling and the monitor is getting tired. So I looked at all three copies. I considered pulling down considered all three of them. I would get all three of them. In fact, I need to get 110 signed. But I'm looking for a really good copy again. And both 110 and 113 were a little rougher than I would have liked, so I put those back. But this one right here definitely has some potential. And I will give you some stats on this, so what we're looking at just in case. So I'm kind of estimating this to be in that 9.0 with a real outside chance at a 9.4. Now that could be being too optimistic, but well, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a 9.0 to a 9.4, and I'll give you some value. You know what this book could be worth graded. 9.0s current price right now, most recent sale was $235 back in June of this year. 9.2s about $265, 9.4s $338, up to $500. Now all those sales are in the last few months here on eBay. But signed, the range, it's funny, the range of prices I saw, actually, as I'm looking at my notes while I'm doing this, all of these range within $30, well, $30 of each other. In fact, a 9.0 went for $630 off of Heritage Auctions in June. 9.2 went for $600 on eBay as a 9.2, but that was back in 2020. I didn't see a sale since then on the 9.2. 9.4, June of this year, on Heritage Auctions for the same price as that 9.0. Somebody got a deal on one of them, and someone overpaid a little bit maybe. But that gives me some hope for, my 7.0 actually has some really good value as well. But this copy is going to definitely grade out better. That's why I was given that range of a 9.0 to a 9.4. But that was the last book I picked up. So Jason, thank you guys for this book right here. You had a lot of great books, but again, I was being a little bit disciplined, and you know I'll be able to pick up some more stuff from you the next time I see you at a show. So, guys, I hope that you liked all of these books today. These are great books. Fun for the PC, fun for speculation to a certain degree. This one right here for a special project, we'll definitely try to get Jim Steranko to sign this one at a future date. I'm not sure if he's going to be at Baltimore or not, but he's usually a regular guest, it seems like the last couple of years down Heroes Con. Keep our fingers crossed. Jim Steranko's not a young guy, but God willing, we'll get to see him again. But had a great time today. Great to see all my buddies out there. Great to meet Ryan from Automatic Comics. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. And again, leave me comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of these books. And if you've got any of these in your PC, let me know, definitely. And if you're ever interested in any of the books that I have on my channel, definitely reach out to me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com or DM me on Instagram. I also have a lot of my books for sale on my eBay store and Shortbox page. So you can reach out to either of those sources too and check those out. But anyway, guys, that's it. I'm out of here. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I will see you for the next show. Until then, remember, every comic has a story.